A corrupt judge and crime boss covered up a cop's murder until his canine police dog exposed the truth. The dangerous criminal walked free, all thanks to a corrupt judge. It seemed like they had outsmarted the system. But just when they thought they were untouchable, a canine police dog sniffed out a hidden truth that would unravel their entire scheme and bring them crashing down. Detective Ryan Carter got out of his car. He held Tango's leash tight. The German shepherd stood still. His ears were up. His eyes looked around the busy courthouse steps. Ryan felt the pressure. Today was important. Vincent Moretti, a dangerous criminal, would go to jail. If everything went right, his crimes would finally end. The air was heavy. Many reporters stood outside. They shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Police officers stood in a straight line. Their faces were serious. Ryan walked past them. His badge shined in the sunlight. He saw Olivia Grant waiting for him at the courthouse door. She wore a dark blue suit. She held a briefcase tight in her hand. "Are you ready?" Ryan asked. Olivia nodded. "I have the papers. These papers will put Moretti in jail. He won't escape this time." Ryan took a deep breath, but something felt wrong. Two courthouse guards stood near the door. One was young. His eyes moved nervously. The other was older. He did not look at Ryan. This was not normal. These guards should be strong and focused. But today they looked scared. Ryan's instincts told him something was wrong. He looked at the crowd, the reporters, the police officers, the judge walking up the steps, Judge Alan Whitaker. Ryan knew him. But today, the judge did not meet Ryan's eyes. His shoulders were stiff. He looked tense. Something was not right. Tango let out a low growl. Ryan placed a hand on the dog's back. "Calm down, boy," he whispered. The courthouse doors opened. They stepped inside. The marble floor made a loud sound under Ryan's boots. The air was cool, but Ryan felt hot. The courtroom was full. Moretti sat at the defense table. He wore an expensive black suit. His hair was slicked back. His lawyer whispered to him. But Moretti did not listen. He just smiled at Ryan. Ryan's jaw tightened. He hated that smile. Judge Whitaker sat down. The room went silent. "This court is now in session," the bailiff said. Olivia stood up. "Your Honor, we are ready to show the important evidence." She stopped talking. Her face turned pale. Ryan felt fear in his stomach. Something was wrong. Olivia quickly opened her briefcase. She searched through the papers. Panic showed in her eyes. She turned to Ryan and whispered, "The papers. They are gone." The room felt smaller. A cold feeling ran down Ryan's spine. This was not an accident. It was impossible. Those papers were kept in a safe place. Only a few people had access to them. Judge Whitaker cleared his throat. "Miss Grant." Olivia's voice shook. I don't know what happened, Your Honor. The papers are missing." People in the courtroom started whispering. The defense lawyer leaned back in his chair. He looked amused. Moretti did not move much, but his smile got bigger. Ryan clenched his fists. He looked at the judge. Whitaker sighed and shook his head. The judge spoke in a serious voice. "Without the evidence, this court must drop all charges against Mr. Moretti." Ryan's hands felt like stone. His heart pounded. "No, this cannot be happening." Olivia stood still. She took short breaths. "Your Honor, we need time. Something is wrong." "The case is dismissed," the judge said. "Mr. Moretti is free to go." The judge hit his gavel. The loud sound filled the room. It was over. Ryan felt anger in his chest. He turned to Moretti. Moretti slowly stood up. He buttoned his suit jacket. He walked past Ryan. He leaned in and whispered, "Better luck next time, detective." Ryan felt rage. His fingers twitched. He wanted to stop Moretti, to do something, anything, but he couldn't. Not here. Not now. Tango barked loudly. He felt Ryan's anger. Moretti looked at the dog and laughed. Then he walked out of the courtroom. He was free. Ryan's mind raced. This was not a mistake. Someone had stolen the papers. Someone had helped Moretti escape. And now, a dangerous man was walking free. Detective Ryan Carter walked quickly out of the courtroom. His jaw was tight. His hands were fists. Tango walked beside him. The dog's ears moved, listening to every sound. Outside, the air was full of noise. Reporters shouted. Cameras flashed. But Ryan did not stop. He needed to think. Then, Tango stopped. Ryan felt the leash pull. He turned to look at the dog. The German shepherd stood still. His body was tense. His nose twitched. His ears pointed forward. He had smelled something. "What is it, boy?" Ryan asked. Tango sniffed the air again. Then he moved, but not toward the exit, not toward the street. He was going back inside. Ryan waited for a second. Then he followed. Tango never acted without a reason. The dog led him past the courtroom doors, through the empty hallway, past the judge's bench. Ryan's heart beat fast. He already had a bad feeling, but this was a surprise. Tango stopped in front of a wooden door. Judge Whitaker's private office. Ryan's stomach felt tight. He looked around. The hallway was empty. He grabbed the door handle. Locked. Tango sniffed at the bottom of the door. He let out a soft whine. Ryan didn't have time to wait. He pulled a small tool from his pocket. He worked fast on the lock. Click. Twist. The door opened. Inside, the judge's office was dark. The air smelled like old books and fresh coffee. Tango walked straight to a wooden cabinet in the corner. He scratched at it. His claws made a loud sound on the wood. Ryan opened the drawer. Inside, he saw shredded paper, dozens of torn pieces. His pulse got faster. He reached in and grabbed some of the scraps. He knew what they were. The missing papers. Moretti's financial records. The proof that had disappeared before the trial. His hands moved quickly. He took pictures with his phone. Every detail. Then, he pulled out an evidence bag from his pocket. He started collecting the torn papers. His mind raced. This was it. This was the proof. The judge had helped Moretti. The trial was not fair. Then, Ryan heard a sound. The office door creaked. Ryan turned fast. Judge Whitaker stood in the doorway. His face was blank. His hands rested at his sides. He looked at the open drawer, then at the bag in Ryan's hand. Ryan lifted the bag slightly. "Lose something, Your Honor." Whitaker did not move. His voice was calm. "You have no proof." Ryan gave a slow smile. A sharp smile. "Not yet." He stepped past the judge. Tango walked beside him. Ryan had work to do. Detective Ryan Carter did not waste time. He needed proof, and he needed it fast. He took out his phone and called his friend, Ethan Cole. Ethan was a tech expert. He had helped Ryan before. "I need you to fix some shredded papers," Ryan said. "Can you do it?" Ethan laughed. "Send them to me. Give me a few hours." Ryan quickly sent photos of the torn papers. Then, he focused on something else, security cameras. If Judge Whitaker had stolen the documents, there had to be proof. Ryan drove to the courthouse. He walked into the security room. An older security guard sat at the desk. The guard looked tired. "I need to see last night's camera footage," Ryan said. The guard sighed. "Do you have a warrant?" Ryan showed his badge. "I don't need one." The guard mumbled something, but turned to the computer. He clicked a few buttons. The screen lit up. Ryan leaned in, watching closely. There, a man in a suit, walking through the courthouse late at night. Ryan's heart pounded. The man walked into the evidence room. Ryan zoomed in. The face became clear. Judge Whitaker. Ryan took a deep breath. He had him. His phone rang. "Ethan, I fixed the papers," Ethan said. "And guess what? Moretti's name is everywhere. It's proof he laundered money." Ryan smiled. "Good job. Send it to me." Seconds later, his phone beeped. He opened the file. The papers were clear. The words were easy to read. Whitaker had destroyed the evidence. But now it was back. Ryan grabbed his radio. "I need officers at the courthouse. Now." Whitaker might try to escape. He ran inside. His heart raced. The courthouse was too quiet. He pushed open the judge's office door. Empty. Then movement. A shadow at the back exit. Ryan ran. "Whitaker, stop." The judge turned. His face was pale. Sweat dripped from his forehead. He ran toward the door. Tango jumped. The judge hit the ground with a heavy thud. He grunted. The German shepherd pinned him down. Police officers rushed in. They grabbed Whitaker. They pulled him to his feet. Ryan stepped closer. He held up his phone. "You destroyed the evidence. But I got it back. And I have video proof. You're finished." Whitaker's shoulders dropped. He knew it was over. Ryan looked at his team. "Take him in." The truth was out. Justice was coming. But Ryan knew this was not the end. Moretti was still free. And Moretti was dangerous. Ryan thought for a moment. Men like Moretti did not stay quiet. He would fight back. He would try to hide the truth again. Ryan would not let that happen. "We need to stop Moretti next," he said. He looked at his team. Find everything on him. His bank records. His businesses. Anyone who might talk. We need to stop him completely. Ryan's phone rang again. "Ethan." "Ryan, I found more," Ethan said. Moretti paid off more than just Whitaker. Other judges. Some cops. Even politicians. Ryan clenched his jaw. Send me the list. This is bigger than we thought. He looked at Tango. The dog stood still. His ears were up. He was ready. We're not done yet, buddy, Ryan said. This is just the beginning. Ryan walked toward the courthouse steps. Reporters waited. Cameras flashed. The world was about to hear the truth. And Ryan was ready to fight until the very end. Detective Ryan Carter walked into the courtroom. His steps were strong. Everyone looked at him. The room, once filled with whispers, went quiet. Judge Whitaker sat in his chair. But when he saw Ryan, his face turned pale. Ryan did not stop. He walked straight to the prosecutor's table. Olivia Grant sat there, holding a pen tightly. Her eyes widened as Ryan gave her a folder. Your Honor, Ryan said. His voice was clear and firm. I have new evidence. The air in the room felt heavy. Moretti, who had been sitting back in his chair, suddenly sat up. His smug smile faded a little. He knew something was wrong. Judge Whitaker shifted in his seat. Detective Carter, this is not the right way to do things, he said. Ryan ignored him. He looked at the Chief Justice. Your Honor, these papers were stolen. They show Moretti's illegal money deals. And Ryan took a step forward. He looked right at Whitaker. I have security footage of Judge Whitaker taking the documents from the evidence room. The courtroom gasped. People whispered in shock. Reporters quickly took notes. The Chief Justice leaned forward. His face was serious. Do you have the video? Ryan nodded. He held up his phone. He pressed a button. A large screen on the wall turned on. The video played. The room watched. On the screen, in the dim light of the courthouse, was Judge Whitaker. He looked around nervously. Then, he opened a cabinet. A second later, he pulled out a folder, the same folder Ryan had now. More gasps. A woman covered her mouth with her hands. Olivia looked at Ryan, then back at the screen. Her eyes burned with anger. The Chief Justice's face turned hard. Officers, arrest Judge Whitaker. Judge Whitaker jumped to his feet. This is crazy. You can't do this. Two officers walked up to him. They grabbed his arms. He struggled, but they held on tight. His proud look disappeared. His face showed fear and anger. Ryan turned to Moretti. The crime boss tried to stay calm, but his smirk was gone. His hands curled into fists. Olivia stood up. Her voice was strong. Your Honor, with this new evidence, we ask to continue the trial right now. The Chief Justice nodded. Granted. Moretti leaned close to his lawyer. He whispered angrily. His plan had failed. There was no way out now. Ryan took a slow breath. This was justice. No tricks. No corruption. Just the truth. As Whitaker was taken away in handcuffs, and Moretti faced the law, Ryan allowed himself a small smile. The fight was not over. But today, they had won a big battle. Tango sat beside him. His ears were up. His tail moved slightly. Ryan patted the dog's head. Good work, partner. This case was not just about Moretti or Whitaker. It was about trust. It was about proving that no one, no matter how powerful, was above the law. And Ryan Carter was not stopping anytime soon. The courtroom was quiet. Olivia stood up, holding the papers in her hands. These papers were the proof. The jury watched her closely. Ryan sat at the back. His heart beat fast. This was the moment. The financial records show that Vincent Moretti laundered millions, Olivia said. Her voice was strong. Judge Whitaker tried to hide the truth. But the truth always comes out. The jury whispered to each other. Moretti's lawyer tried to argue, but the proof was too strong. The judge, a serious man with sharp eyes, looked at the jury. Have you reached a decision? A juror, a woman with silver hair, stood up. Yes, Your Honor. Ryan held his breath. We find the defendant, Vincent Moretti, guilty of all crimes. The judge nodded. He hit his gavel on the desk. Vincent Moretti, you are sentenced to life in prison. The room filled with noise. Some people clapped. Others gasped. Moretti's face turned red with anger. His hands became fists. He looked at Ryan with hate. But Ryan did not look away. He was not afraid. Two officers grabbed Moretti's arms. He tried to pull away, but he had no choice. It was over. The courtroom slowly emptied. Reporters rushed to get statements. Olivia shook hands with some jurors. She thanked them for their work. Ryan sat still for a moment. He let it all sink in. This case had taken so much of his time, and now it was finished. Outside, the sun was bright. The sky was clear and blue. Ryan stepped onto the courthouse steps. He took a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, he felt free. Tango stood next to him. His tail wagged. Ryan smiled. He reached into his pocket. "You did great, buddy." He pulled out a small treat. Tango's ears went up. He took the treat and ate it happily. Olivia walked up to Ryan. She watched the reporters chasing after the officers who took Moretti away. "We did it," she said softly. Ryan nodded. "Yeah, we did." She let out a deep breath. "I wasn't sure what would happen today." Ryan looked at her. "You really had doubts?" She smiled. "I believe in the truth. But men like Moretti are powerful. They change the rules, pay people off, and escape justice." Ryan looked at the street. People walked by, going about their day. Not this time. They stood there for a moment. It felt good. Then Olivia turned to him. "What's next for you?" Ryan shrugged. "More cases. More criminals. Same job." Olivia smirked. "And Tango." Ryan knelt down and scratched Tango's ears. "He stays with me, always." Tango wagged his tail. He leaned into Ryan's hand. A little boy walked by with his father. He pointed at Tango and smiled. "Look, Dad, a police dog." Ryan smiled at the boy. "Do you want to pet him?" The boy's eyes grew wide. "Can I?" Ryan nodded. The boy reached out and touched Tango's fur. Tango sat still, his tail moving slowly on the ground. "Wow," the boy whispered. "He's a hero." Ryan looked at Tango. "Yeah, he is." The father and son walked away. Olivia nudged Ryan's arm. "See? You don't just catch bad guys. You inspire people." Ryan laughed. "I'll take that as a good thing." She smiled. "You should." Ryan looked at the courthouse one last time. It had been a long fight, but they won. Justice won. And no matter what happened next, Ryan knew one thing for sure. As long as he had Tango by his side, justice would always win.